Order. Order. And ask everyone to please turn off your mobile devices, electronic devices, things of that nature. At this time, I'll ask Commissioner Johnson to lead the pledge and do our invocation.
Stand and face the flag, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Remain standing and pray with me, please. Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight as a body of your people. Father, we ask that you bless each one in this room and our families. You know things that we don't know about ourselves, and we need your help and your blessings. Father, we also ask that the decisions made in this room tonight be for the right reasons. Help this county to move forward. We ask for you to bless everybody here. We thank you for this beautiful day. We bless all days forward, just like you have today. Ask these things in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. All right. Are there any additions or deletions to the published agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the agenda as published.
Second.
Have a motion and second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Motion carried, Madam Clerk. All right, consent agenda. Any changes, additions, deletions to the consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second. I have a motion and second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Motion carried unanimously, Madam Clerk. Okay. At this time, we will have a 30-minute period for a public forum. Now, this is not to be confused with the public hearings that are coming up later in the agenda. This is a public forum to talk about things that the board has control over or that might be on our agenda for tonight. Again, I remind you, please be courteous and refrain from any profane language. At this time, I will call on, let's see, I've got 6:03, so if we go to 6:33, I've only got 3 people, so we should be good. Ms. Longman, you're up first.
Good afternoon, everyone. Elizabeth Longman, 224 Hamilton Road, Bund Level. 2 things. Number one, we in the town of Irwin, we have had 2 deaths, all drug-related, a suicide and a murder. You guys are sitting on the opioid money, or the county is sitting on the opioid money, and have not sent it out to those who need it most, and have put 2 incompetent people. People do not know anything about the opioid crisis in Harnett, while the law enforcement is struggling. And they found the cache of weapons at Triton High School, and you're still sitting on the money. You need to release that money to law enforcement, not even law enforcement, to the schools, to the DA, to the emergency services personnel immediately. That would really, really help them out while you're sitting and Harnett County citizens are dying. Also, I found, and you guys have access to, those with their job descriptions did within their job description, they should have handed these documents to you too. This is a copy of the Harnett County Detention Center inspection. You do not have control of who the people are in there, but that building was paid for with Harnett County taxpayer money, and you guys have the authority and they should have the presence to make sure that it is still being taken care of to the best of the counties or the sheriff department's ability. Environmental Services has done several reports and listed the violations. This last one was done on 9/30/2022. So the condition of that building is well documented. The violations in that building are well documented. If people did what was in their job description, this board should have been asked to act a while back to mitigate and help save taxpayer money instead of letting it go to rot. That was millions of dollars of taxpayer money once again being wasted and trashed, including fires and mold, etc., by the sheriff's department. You guys have control of that building. Please pay attention. Pull this up. I was going to hand it to you, but I'm not going to do your homework. You pay some people a lot of money to do this kind of stuff. Make sure you read the report and look after the interests of Harnett County citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Longman. Mr. Trout, do we have a copy of that report?
Yes, we can get it to you.
If you could send that to us. All right, Alan Longman?
My name is Alan Longman. I'm at 234 Hamilton Road, Bond Level. Reason for me talking today is similar to what she was saying, my wife. That is that 2 weeks before the incidents happened at the high school, they actually asked for the money to help out and handle the drug problem. And the point is, 2 weeks later, you have this massacre and death occurring between two students. The other thing I want to talk about is the problems at the jail. We do have the paperwork showing 2 weeks they had to make the corrections in the facility before they actually did the inspection. So it would have been a lot worse. I have people coming to me from the jail system telling me how bad it was all along. And they need to be listened to and find out how bad it's been in the past. We have a group that was supposed to oversee the voting in the jail system. Didn't occur. The ballots remained open, unsealed, not delivered by the people to the post office or in the hands of the sheriff's department. The problem is that because of the problems with the health conditions in that jail, we believe that they use those things to force a lot of the people in the jail to vote for the sheriff. And there's no way we can verify that nothing has been touched and hampered. It's supposed to be done according to as regular people do with the absentee ballots. Can't be done. These people have their lives in their hands. There's no way they can sit there and put themselves in jeopardy. The second problem that we had also is that they're not giving medicine to the people in the jail who need it. They actually took it away from them. They have not been getting the medicine in order to clamp down on them and punish them for reporting the health conditions in the jail. Some of these people are very sick. Some are dying. My wife's son had his medicine taken away. His kidneys are failing. They won't give him dialysis. They won't give him the operation needed for him to survive. The point is, there's a lot of other people in that jail that have similar problems with their diabetes and with other illnesses. The reason the nurses left there, because it was unethical what they were asked to do in that jail system. It needs to be investigated. When we first mentioned the fact there were problems in the jail, we thought maybe the county would actually go in there and take a look themselves, or have people do it earlier. We've been talking about this for a couple of months. So these are my concerns. I wish they would be addressed. And again, we have things being beaten up and people taking our signs, threatening businesses in Dunn for displaying their political sign. We have people threatened and businesses in Coates, Hispanics particularly, in these areas. We don't like what's going on, the bullying. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Longman. Rebecca Davidson?
Yes, Chairman Witherspoon, I apologize. I signed the roster, but I'm not here for the public comment section.
Not a problem. Okay, that's all the people we had signed up, so I will close the public comment period, and we will move on to item 6 on the agenda. This is the proposed zoning of Clibbett Properties LLC out on Purfoy Road. Mr. Sykes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, board members. Jay Sykes of Development Services presenting our first rezoning tonight, which is a request to rezone approximately 113 acres from RA 40 to RA 30. The owner and applicant is Clibbett Properties LLC. This is located on Purefoy Road, near Purefoy and Clibbett Springs Road in the Black River Township. Site is vacant farmland, approximately 7 acres already exists of RA 30, which is across the street. And there's existing 15.5 acres of conservation. Both of those will remain. Vacant undeveloped agricultural land, single-family residential lots are in the area, as well as residential developments that are within the county's jurisdiction, as well as the town of Angers. Also in the area is the ones in Anger were annexed into the town using their public sewer. And then Drake's Landing is adjacent to this parcel. And again, the town limits of Anger is approximately 2 miles away. If developed, public water and public sewer would be utilized. It's approximately 1,400 vehicle trips per day along Purefoy Road, and approximately 2,100 vehicle trips per day along Clibbett Springs Road. Currently, site distances are fair along where just at the clearing there of this site. Looking at zoning district, as you can see, the majority of the area going up Purefoy, and then between Dales Creek there is RA 40. Then on each side is RA 30, and then to the south of Clibbett Springs Road is also actually 20M. Land use compatibility. This is noted as medium density residential, as you can see the site. And then as it moves towards the town of Anger, there indicated, which is on the county land use map, is the Drake's Landing business, as well, and farm reserve, as well as you can see over, a very zoomed out version is compatible mixed use around 401. There's some site photos of existing farmland, and then on Purefoy Road there each way. Now, looking at the evaluation, the impact to the surrounding community is reasonable, as the requested zoning district is similar in nature to the surrounding districts. The requested zoning to RA 30 is compatible with the overall land use classification of medium density residential, as well as being within the compatibility development target area. That medium density residential land use classifications could have lot densities that range between 2 and 5 units per acre. Within this vicinity are also distinctive growth patterns for the municipal growth areas, and also looking at the land use classification, and then the several years ago within the Northwest Area Plan, the applicant made a compelling effort to ensure that this area, this tract was classified as medium density residential to facilitate future development. The requested zoning to RA 30 would maintain the public health and safety and general welfare due to existing residential uses in the area, and due to the land use compatibility, as well as being adjacent to similar to the same zoning district. Small scale rezoning does not need to be evaluated. So therefore, as stated in the evaluation, rezoning to RA 30 would not have an unreasonable impact on the surrounding community based on the existing residential uses, as well as compatibility with county's land use plan. On October 3rd, the Harnett County Planning Board voted unanimously 5-0 to recommend approval for this based on the land use compatibility, as well as the residential areas. No one spoke in opposition. Staff is available, as well as the applicants are here.
Any questions at this time for staff?
You said that, excuse me,
Yes, ma'am.
you didn't have any of the neighbors in the area at all come and speak against it.
No, ma'am. No one came to the meeting, and the only one that called was in reference to Mr. Jeffries, who lives just north of the property, has an old family farm.
Do you feel comfortable that those the citizens in the neighbors in that area know about Drake's Landing and all?
I feel comfortable that the existing residents do. Yes, ma'am. And then I feel that, moving forward, that staff will do everything we can to ensure that as well. And then, hopefully when it comes to the situation on the real estate side of things, hopefully the realtors will do their due diligence as well and work for their clients.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I think it's more up to the real estate folks to notify the prospective buyers of what's around than it is for us to do it.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for staff?
I
If
just
not,
want to add a little bit
yes,
to that.
ma'am. Ma'am?
The only thing is, a lot of the citizens moving into this county that are out of this state.
That's
So
right.
that's my concern.
Yes, ma'am. I understand.
And we do, our office does field a lot of phone calls from realtors throughout the region, really, not even just this area. So I think the realtors are reaching out for their prospective clients. Online sales, I think there's a lot of real estate online sales. So, of course, the local ones will reach out to us. So they're always asking, what's coming to the area, if there's anything like that. So we do, we definitely try and do our best. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I appreciate that, and you have told me and you have convinced me that you have met your responsibility. So
Thank you.
That's all.
Yeah, if they contact us, I mean, that's, we should answer their questions. But to go out and, for us to go out and seek and look for prospective buyers or whatever, that's a fine line right there.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So, all right. Hearing nothing else, at this time, I will open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak for or against, please come forward and state your name and say what you have to say. Seeing no one moving to, oh, we do have one letter to read, I'm sorry.
That's okay. The following comments regarding case number Plan 2008-001 have been submitted by Kent Jeffries, 747 Purfoy Road, Fuquay Varina. My comments are neither in opposition to nor in favor of the zoning change from RA 40 to RA 30. Having attended the planning board meeting at which this case was heard, as well as viewing the Board of Commissioners work session at which it was presented and discussed, I feel it appropriate to address some comments made by planning staff and commissioners. Our family farm, recognized by the North Carolina Department of Agriculture as a century farm, is located on the west side of Purfoy Road, less than 200 yards from the northern boundary of Calibet Properties parcel and about 300 yards to the northeast of Drake Landing. It was mentioned that the low-lying terrain along Neals Creek provides a natural buffer between Drake Landing and the parcel under consideration for rezoning. While the low-lying area may provide a slight visual and proximity buffer, it provides no buffer against the firearms noise generated by Drake Landing. As one who has lived in close proximity to the shooting ranges for years, the low-lying area provides no noise mitigation of any significance. The sporting clays, shooting stations, and the pistol ranges are located on higher ground, and the noise carries into the surrounding areas. Any noise mitigation is provided by existing stands of timber, mostly loblolly pine. These stands of timber are enrolled in timber management plans for deferred tax purposes. To remain in compliance with the deferred tax program, these stands must be thinned at the appropriate intervals and ultimately clear cut. When thinned, a significant number of trees are removed, substantially reducing noise mitigation benefits. When clear cut, all noise mitigation will cease to exist for a considerable number of years. The timber on our farm, which had provided some noise mitigation, was recently thinned. This thinning has resulted in a noticeable increase in the volume of Drake Landing firearms noise carrying onto our property. We dread the thought of what is to come when the timber is clear cut. The Clibbett Properties parcel will eventually be subject to the same change in conditions. During the work session discussion of this case, Chairman Witherspoon commented, referring to the owner of Drake Landing, "He's had enough troubles." I find this comment offensive and narrow-minded. It implies that those of us who have been negatively impacted by the firearm activities conducted at Drake Landing and who choose to take action to protect our property and quality of life are troublemakers. It must be noted that we were here before the firearm ranges were established and that the nuisance came to us. We did not move here from other areas and then began complaining about the noise and disruption. Seeking to attempt to preserve our right to the quiet enjoyment of our property, ensure our safety, and preserve our property values, we were forced to deal with previous county administrations, county management, and county legal staff, whose actions during that time were viewed by many as biased and likely not in compliance with the ethical standards by which those who occupy such positions are supposed to be guided. Our efforts took us from utilizing county processes onto Harnett County Superior Court to the NC Court of Appeals to the NC Supreme Court. After experiencing an initial setback at the Board of Adjustment level, our position was validated and upheld at each stage of the ensuing legal process: Superior Court, Court of Appeals, and the NC Supreme Court. As a resident of Commissioner District 4, I would hope that our elected commissioner would endeavor to equally represent all citizens of our district and the county without regard to wealth, social status, property holdings, campaign contributions, or any other special considerations. Also, during the work session, there was much discussion about noise complaints and how the commissioners didn't want to have to listen to complaints from homeowners who bought new houses only to discover they're located in close proximity to shooting ranges and the ensuing noise nuisance. It was emphasized that the county planning department should be proactive in ensuring that home buyers know about Drake Landing. While the planning department can ensure that land use maps and other county documentation reference Drake Landing, there is little it can do outside of the normal plan reviews and permitting process required by county ordinances and NC statutes. The planning department has nothing to do with real estate marketing law. North Carolina real estate law pertaining to new construction does not require the disclosure of nearby nuisances. Prospective buyers of new homes that could be negatively impacted by Drake Landing are at the mercy of their real estate agent. It will be interesting to see what happens when Center Farms, a 1,000-unit housing project that adjoins Drake Landing, begins selling houses and people start moving in. In closing, I would like to reiterate that I am neutral regarding this rezoning request. However, I invite any commissioner to contact me if he or she would like to know more about past events that have led us to the current situation in this area, presented in accurate, detailed, and documented manner. Regards, Kent Jeffries.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Anyone else? Yes.
My name is Rebecca Davidson. I'm an attorney here in Lillington, and I represent Clibbett Properties, which is the owner of the land in question. I just wanted to make a few comments, partially in response to Mr. Jeffrey's very sincere letter, but just to acknowledge that it covered a lot of territory, most of which is not relevant to the issue before the commissioners this evening. We're here on a request for a rezoning. The property is already partially zoned RA30. You've heard the report from Development Services. I hope the commissioners took note of the fact that Mr. Sykes referenced that my clients have worked for some time with Development Services, and I think that I'm very confident in saying that they would continue to do so. Just wanted to note that Mr. Jeffrey said he is neither supporting nor opposing the rezoning request. It appears to me that most of his concerns actually are directed towards Drake Landing, and perhaps this body, but not my client. So we would ask that the commissioners consider this matter purely on the merits with respect to the request for rezoning. And Mr. Center, who is here with me, this is Mr. Meredith Center, he would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Davidson. Anyone else wish to be heard? Okay. Seeing no one move to come forward, I will close the public hearing. And any questions by any members of the board? All right, then what's the pleasure of the board? Well, I move that we approve this rezoning request.
Second.
Have a motion and second. Any further discussion? No. All in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposition? But carried unanimously, Madam Clerk. No opposition. Okay. All right. So the zoning request is approved. All right, Mr. Sykes, we'll move to item 7, the property out on 421.
Yes, sir.
RP Wellens Land and Development.
This is our second of two items. A request to rezone approximately 94 acres from commercial to RA 30 in the Upper Little River Township. The owner is Ms. Catherine Medley and Mr. Jeffrey Thomas. The applicant is RP Wellens Development. Again, this is located on Old 421 near the intersection of Old 421 and existing US 421. This is a larger parcel that's currently vacant farmland. There's a variety of uses in the area, including agricultural, individual low-density residential lots, and several commercial uses. In total, it's approximately 188 acres of commercial in this area. It's approximately 2.5 miles from the Lee County line, and town of Broadway is annexed into the county, so it's a little closer to that town. Public water is in the area. Private septic would be utilized if developed. That's approximately 2,300 vehicle trips per day along Old 421, and approximately 9,700 vehicle trips per day along existing US 421. Site distances are good. Looking at the zone and district compatibility, as you can see, there's the commercial zoning along Old 421 and 421. Land use compatibility is agricultural and rural residential, and there's a land use development node there that's just that touches into the property. Looking at the evaluation, the impact to the surrounding community is not reasonable, as it is predominantly zoned commercial. Also, the impact of 421 potentially becoming I-685 as an economic stimulator for this area. As per discussion with Harnett County Economic Development, the amount of commercially zoned property in the area could support a retail center. And as noted, this site is conveniently located between commercial areas of Sanford and Lillington, each being about 11 miles away. Looking at the land use classification, the majority of the area is zoned agricultural and rural residential, which would make it compatible. These are primarily agricultural uses and located outside of existing and future water and sewer service areas. However, there's a rural center development node in the area that does include a portion of this property. The proposal does not enhance the overall general welfare of the community. Several compatible non-residential uses are present in this area, and uses provided within the current zoning classification could be more appropriate for this area's potential growth. It would not need to be evaluated for small-scale rezoning, as RA 30 is in the area. Therefore, as stated in the rezoning evaluation, that RA 30 would not enhance the general overall welfare of the surrounding community due to existing non-residential parcels. as well as the future economic development endeavors. Therefore, staff recommends denial of the application. On October 30th, Harnett County Planning Board voted unanimously to recommend approval of this application. Due to the immediate residential use and tax base that would provide, as well as the lack of public sewer that would better serve non-resident projects. Planning board members discussed the emergency management and fire and EMS response time in a rural area. And they were also, if moving forward, they were worried about street connections if it was developed. However, the main topic discussed was the lack of public sewer and a new non-residential activity in the areas, and as well as the immediate use of a tax base. That's what they also thought about. The applicant was recommended by legal counsel, and during that representation, discussed points pertaining to the majority of the area being residentially zoned, as well as the lack of public sewer not being present nor not being proposed. Two citizens did speak in opposition. One had overall concerns with the development in the rural area, including traffic and safety concerns. The other was the farmer who leases the parcel and spoke farm preservation and protecting his livelihood. This was a different one. Staff looked at growth patterns that are going on in Lee County, it being a main corridor, development node being in the area. It's not directly on the intersection, but it is in the area. A lot of commercial in the area. We also touched base with economic development, and they had some good thoughts. So that's why staff went with the recommendation of denial.
Any questions for staff at this time?
I'm having a hard time hearing you. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry about that.
What did you say about the economic development?
Yes, ma'am. So we touched base with the Economic Development Department on their thoughts, just the predominantly being a commercial area and the thoughts of commercial, going away and turning into residential. So they Mr. Christian Knockleby, the director, weighed in on it with some thoughts about how it could be, this area could be, since it's one large parcel, it's easier to develop versus putting multiple parcels together that are on, say, different ownerships. You'd have to put those together like a bigger development package. So this site could sustain a larger commercial, say, example like a Food Line shopping center or something like that.
If it's okay, I'm going to ask Christian to come. Christian, would you come up and talk about what you found and what you see from an economic development standpoint?
Sure. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Christian Lockney, Director of County Economic Development. So the map right there before you had Ben and Melissa blow it up and put it there. Those are the zoning patterns in the area, and you'll see that the subject rezoning site is the only commercial area of scale along the 421 corridor that connects the town of Lillington to the communities of Broadway and Sanford. And so looking at it from my perspective, it appears to be a neighborhood serving commercial area. What you're looking at is a total of 194 acres of commercial. The subject parcel is 94 acres. So if the entire subject parcel reverted from commercial to residential, you'd be taking away 51% of your commercial zoning. So you would be banking on the northern parcels. There's about, I'd say, 5 parcels, and looks like you've got about 3 to 4 different property owners up there. You would have about 16 acres left on the south side. And so just looking at it, it feels to me that, as a county, we would need the neighborhood serving commercial. There may be a way to have both. Looking at it, that's a pretty large tract on the south side, so there may be a way to have both. When you're looking at Broadway already has, what I would consider to be a ripe commercial development for that tract with a Piggly Wiggly, a grocery anchored shopping center. And so, it feels to me like the residents would be leaving our county, going into another county to shop. And then that's where they would be spending their dollars. That's where they would be visiting. And so that's why our staff at Economic Development wanted to put that out there. And the other thing I'll say as far as the water sewer availability, typically from what I've seen is, you don't start with the larger capacity to support commercial. You start with a land use plan, you start with zoning, and then you make the investments later with the infrastructure to accommodate the plan. Any questions?
Do you have the, Mr. Lockamy, looked at a typical Food Line shopping center, one that's on 421 going out of Dunn, and he superimposed it on. Do you have that map?
No, I can speak to it though. And so really what I looked at is a grocery anchored shopping center in Dunn that was developed within the last several years or handful of years. And it occupied about a 6.5 acre footprint. And so if you superimpose that on that site, you would still end up with, I guess, the best of both worlds. You would end up with a large enough tract where you could have some commercial and the residential. So.
Any questions for Mr. Lockamy?
I hate to ask the questions. Are you suggesting that you could take this this block of land with the rezoning and all, could be some rezoned as commercial and some rezoned as residential?
Yes, ma'am.
That's what you're suggesting, right?
I feel like if the county could retain at least a small portion of the commercial zoning on that subject tract, it would be in the best interest of the county.
And that has been done in other parts of the county, in some of the municipalities. So this is not a new concept.
I'm asking because we have so few portions of land in this county that is commercial. And it's a hard decision to make. That's the reason I'm asking the questions.
Very good question.
It's very, very hard to make the decision. But now you're saying that you can take part of it, rezone it, and then still have a portion of it for commercial.
Yes, ma'am. And I think on the flip side of that, the county obviously at some point, if they did something like that, were able to work that out with the landowner, then there would have to be the investment in the infrastructure to accommodate it. But I also think that the price per acre that yields from residential, $10,000 to $12,000 or whatever it is for residential, to commercial, which is anywhere between $50,000 and $100,000. So there's once that happens, there's also the best of all worlds in there.
I'm gonna suggest something. And ask everyone else.
Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you, Mr. Lockamy. At this time, I will open the public hearing on the rezoning of this tract of land. Anyone wishing to speak for or against, please come forward, state your name and your address, and tell us what's on your mind.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Tillman Pope. I'm an attorney in Dunn, 403 West Broad Street, and I represent the applicant, RP Wellens Land and Development. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to make a presentation this evening, and congratulations on this facility. First time I've been to a commissioners meeting since it's been open. Harnett County can be proud. I think what we would like to focus on this evening is what is before this board in the nature of a rezoning request. It is not what we think would be best for the area. It is not what we would like for the area. It is the criteria that is established in your Unified Development Ordinance and whether or not that criteria has been established. This is a little bit different than the staff evaluation. There is some overlap there, so I'll try to pick that up where we get to that. But what's before the board this evening are the following specific criteria in your uniform development code. The first one is whether or not the proposed rezoning will put all property similarly situated in the area in the same category. And I apologize that I don't have a blow up of the maps that were presented, but if one looks at your agenda package, all that orange is RA 30, which is what we're requesting to be rezoned from commercial to RA 30. And if you take out the 94 acre parcel that this is a part of, that would make that even more significant. So I believe the staff report indicates that the majority of the property is commercial, when in fact the majority of the surrounding property is RA 30. Which is the first criteria that the planning board unanimously agreed had been established. Then it's the second criteria is there is convincing demonstration that all uses in the permitted district would be in the general public interest. So it is not, would this be bad? It is, would it be in the general public interest? Would it cause inconvenience to the community, the uses that are allowed for in this proposed rezoning? At the planning board, Mr. Sykes already indicated 2 people spoke. One spoke on traffic and one spoke on preserving farmland. We've got a lot of farmland. I appreciate the comment, but we've got a lot of farmland in Harnett County. On the traffic component of it, those are development issues, not zoning issues. If you choose to proceed forward with the rezoning as requested, my client will have to comply with DOT driveway permits and development standards, and those are development issues. But if the one lady that spoke at the planning board, and I'm not sure if she's here this evening or not, and she may speak, commercial development of the property generates significantly more traffic than this proposed RA 30 zoning. The third criteria is that there is a demonstration that the uses permitted in the district would be appropriate in the area. Well, there's other residential development out there. There's no indication that it would be inappropriate for the area. Again, we're not deciding what would be best, what would we like to have in an ideal world. We are asked that your code asks the question is whether these permitted uses would be complementary with what's already there, which is in fact the case as determined by your planning board. The next criteria is works in concert with that is that the character of the neighborhood would not be materially and adversely affected. Well, there was not at the planning board any public comment that would indicate as such, and with the other development that is out there, there's no indication that it would adversely affect. Again, we're not asking what would be best, what would we like to have in an ideal world. It's whether or not the uses in this proposed zoning district would adversely affect the neighborhood, and there's no indication that it would. And the last criteria is that the proposed change is in accordance with the comprehensive plan, which your staff agrees that it is. Your 2016 land use plan identifies this as a residential rural development, not as commercial. So a couple of things that Mr. Sykes already indicated came up before the planning board that I think is important consideration for the board this evening. We're talking about the commercial property. Ironically, the 6.5 acre Food Line shopping center in Dunn that was referenced earlier was developed and is still owned by my family. What I can tell you is the closest sewer to this property is 4 miles away. Our estimates are that's $2 million to run sewer out there. A Food Line shopping center on 6.5 acres is not economically feasible if you have to spend $2 million running sewer. It's never going to happen. This property's been zoned commercial for 22 years. Property owner will testify shortly that they've never once been approached about a commercial development of this property, and there won't ever be a commercial development of this property without sewer. Your economic developer talked about planning and zoning comes first, and then we'll do infrastructure. Well, it's been sitting there for 22 years, and it still doesn't have any sewer. So what has been suggested in retaining some or all of the property as commercial is, let's pray it'll come one day. Well, it's been 22 years, and it hasn't come yet. It may come someday, but it's not going to come without any sewer. So that puts the property owner in particular, and I don't represent the property owner, I'm representing the applicant, that puts them in a very difficult position. Do they have to keep holding on to it for 22 more years and hope one day they get sewer? Do they have to pray that there's a developer that's going to come and put a big enough commercial development in that area that they're willing to spend $2 million to run sewer out there? That's a tough position to put a property owner in. So it is our request, or my request on behalf of the applicant, that all of the criteria as established in your Unified Development Ordinance have been satisfied. Your planning board, in a 5-0 decision, determined that all 5 of those criteria had been satisfied and is recommending approval of the rezoning request, and we would respectfully request that you do the same. I do have Mr. Robert, better known as Bob Wellens, with me here this evening, his son-in-law Seth Thompson, both of which are part of RP Wellens Land and Development. We're certainly happy to answer any questions that the board might have or provide further clarification on any matter.
Any questions for Mr. Pope?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Hi, my name is Kathy Thomas Medley. I live in Dunn. My brother Jeffrey Thomas and I co-owned the property in question. And the property has been owned by our family for 42 years. The concerns that were raised at the planning board meeting, one was traffic, and as Attorney Pope indicated, any kind of development will bring about increased traffic, and certainly commercial or industrial would be even more than residential traffic. The other concerns were no sewer. That is a major hindrance, we feel, to any kind of industrial or commercial ventures. And as far as we know, there are no future plans for sewers, which led the planning board to unanimously vote to recommend the rezoning. Keeping it zoned commercial severely limits the use and disposition of the property. I feel that it also infringes on our individual property rights. There's been no commercial interest in the 42 years that the family has owned the land. And while future events, Highway, is it 685? May alter that situation, that could be years in the making if it happens at all. At age 73, I'm trying to get my affairs in order. We've not had any interest, as I said, in 42 years. I'm not sure I have another 42 years to wait for sewer development and or commercial interest to materialize. We appreciate the opportunity to speak and hope you will give favorable consideration to our request based upon the information presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Medley. Anyone else? Seeing no one move to come forward, I'll close the public hearing and ask the board any comments or questions from the board. If this is zone RA 30, retail is permitted in RA 30. Is that correct? That's what this shows.
It's not permitted, no. It's retail, some retail. Retail, like a small retail, you might could go through and get a conditional use permit, but a large retail, no, it's not permitted in RA 30.
I mean, I'm looking at this zoning district compatibility, page 157.
Are we talking about the UDO or this? Because I've
Right
been looking at it for
here.
a long time. I'm not going to be able to remember.
Do what now?
Is it the staff report?
Yeah.
The
Right
UDO?
there on the screen now.
If you look, it says retail is a permitted use under commercial, and it's also a permitted use under the requested RA 30.
No, that's what you said, via SUV.
Oh, okay. It's permitted via special use permit. So they'd
Okay.
have to be able to go to the Board of Adjustment and get approval for that. And I think there's a size limit on that as well, right? Yeah, so if you had like a like a convenience store, you could go do that. But anything that gets larger than that, and what we've just realized recently was a Dollar General, you'd have to have the commercial zoning classification in order to have a store of even that size. So
Okay.
no, I apologize. Maybe we'll clear that up too.
Would you have to have a commercial for like, so you would have to have a commercial
Yes,
for
sir.
like a grocery store or something?
Absolutely, yeah, something
Okay.
of that scale. And we'll clean that up to make sure that it's more understandable next time.
Any other comments or questions? Would the applicant consider commercial right along either old 421 or 421 and the rest as residential? Is that a possibility?
Mr. Chairman, I think the applicant would be willing to consider something, and I failed to point this out earlier in my presentation. Part of the hindrance, or other than the lack of sewer, with developing the property commercially is none of it fronts on 421. It's all old 421. So if you look, and again, I apologize for this small little map, but you have it in your agenda packet, I presume, you'll see that there's multiple smaller parcels between 421 and this property. So if somebody wanted to do a commercial development, they would not only have to deal with the current property owner, but they would have to make deals with 3 or 4 other property owners between there and 421, because most commercial development is not, they're not gonna put in a commercial development off of a side road like old US 421. If there is a future interstate in that area, they're gonna want to be up on the front. And so that none of that is this, the Thomas and the Medley property is not on 421. But my client is indicating they'd be willing to try and consider if it's conceivable for some portion of it to remain commercial, if there's some forecast in the not too distant decades of there being sewer out there. I don't know.
Defer this. Can we defer this for the discussion? Can we defer this? Defer. I want to make a motion that we table this until we come together with some final decision as to which way we vote on this. I mean, I understand the owner's position, but I also understand the position of the county for commercial land and all of that. So I'll make a motion we defer this until we have a clear study of what we're doing here.
It would, we make a motion to table this
The table,
to,
we do that?
when do you want to reconsider it? When's our next work session?
Next work session is November 1. Next meeting is November 7.
Do we want to consider it our November 1 work session?
Yes, I would prefer, I mean, that's just me. All depends on how the rest of the board.
Okay, so the motion is to table this for further discussion on November 1st, Harnett County Board of Commissioners work session. Is that okay?
Let me add this, I know, planning board has made, they have voted on it and all that. I want to give respect to that too. So I think it would be best for us just to table it until our next meeting.
By doing this, it gives the applicant an opportunity to take a look and see if if you can figure out a way right along, as you said, Mr. Pope, right along Old 421, that maybe could be commercial. I think, well, who knows what DOT does. They may decide they need to do something to this intersection, which is not good at the best. So it'll give you a chance to look at it, give us a chance to talk about it, find out about the status of sewer. And I think we will bring it before the board again in 2 weeks. And then depending on what happens, well, regardless of what happens to that meeting, we'll make a decision on November the 7th.
So, right.
So, Mr. Chairman, the motion is to defer consideration of this matter until the November 7th regular meeting.
And then we'll put it on the agenda for discussion.
Put it on the agenda for the discussion at the work session.
November 5th.
Yes, sir.
But action would be, as he stated, on November 7th would be the action item.
Yeah. So do you want to amend your motion, Commissioner McCoy?
What am I amending?
To put it on the,
I make a motion that we put it on the work session on November the 1st. And then we make the final decision and vote on November the 7th.
Second.
do I hear a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your hand. Carried unanimously, Madam Clerk. All right.
And that
I
is
guess
at
we'll
9
see you
a.m.
guys on November the 1st.
Thank
you very much.
And
All right.
9 a.m. meeting. This meeting is 9 a.m. Okay. Just as a reminder.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to item 8 on the agenda, appointment to the jury commission.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to nominate, and I need to make a motion on approval.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to approve Cassandra Britt Jackson, District 2 for jury commission.
Second.
We have a motion and second to appoint Sandra Britt Jackson to the jury commission. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously, Madam Clerk. But that's you, isn't it? Okay. You'll get a letter from the clerk's office or something telling you you've been appointed. All right, we'll move along to item number 9. The Harnett County Animal Shelter is asking for consider approval of a pilot animal fostering program.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. Thank you for the opportunity to come back to the board to talk about the pilot animal fostering position or a program. Mr. Smith has been working on it, so I'd like to invite him up here to give you better details and how we move forward.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, fellow commissioners. Asking for approval today for our pilot fostering program. It's really for the legal department and I to start creating all the applications, the policies needed to do this to protect the best interests of the county. Because when putting animals into homes, there's a lot of liability that falls along with that. And Chris, if you'd like to speak on the legal aspect as well to help me out, because I'm no lawyer. And that's what we really need to do before we even start operating this program. We need to speak with other veterinarians as well to start locking in better pricing and determine whether that this is going to be a popular program. Maybe have Ashley send out a survey to see if citizens would be interested in something like this.
Yeah, and as we discussed this at the work session, as we move forward to trying to spay and neuter all the animals that get adopted out. But what we need to look, so all we're asking for is to be able to move forward with looking into this pilot program. As Larry said, we'll have to put together a policy, a waiver, adoption form, because as the animals go out, they are still the county's property. Well, to ensure that this policy allows for us to get the animals back if needed, to set up appointments for vets and setting up those relationships with the veterinarians in the surrounding area. So that way they can be spayed and neutered, the individuals can foster them and then work towards adoption with this individuals fostering the animals. So this is just requesting to move forward so we can put together all this documentation that would be needed to run the successful program.
Chris, before you sit down, the mention of additional liability, what are we looking at there?
So all we're looking at is because under a foster program, they're still the county's property. And so the liability is making sure that the animals are properly cared for, that we can get the animals back if needed, if they're not being cared for, or if they're not going to the appointments they're supposed to, because part of this foster program is also to do spade and neutering. So where the county would pay for that, but the fostering, they'd be required to take them to their appointments and carry them back. So the liability is just making sure that we are providing proper oversight of it, because it is our property.
But not liability in that if, let's say this dog, for example, bites someone, if that dog is still our property, are we coming in into any liability in that
That's
regard?
part of the documentation in the waiver is to waive that liability. That, obviously we'll do our due diligence. We're not going to put dangerous animals, attempt to put any dangerous animals with any individual. If it's a dangerous dog, then we have to take care of them. We're going to do it. But we're talking about adoptable pets here.
Okay.
And then part of that, again, the waiver that will work out is to ensure that the county is safe from lawsuits and that when we're giving these animals.
Okay, and you feel like that waiver would be defendable in a court of law?
I believe so.
Okay.
Nothing's 100%, but we will do everything we can with any type of waiver to protect this county.
Thank you, Attorney.
Will there be certain breeds that are excluded?
That can be discussed if needed. I honestly find more aggressive Chihuahuas than anything else that come into the shelter. They're usually the worst. And all the breeds that are predetermined to be aggressive, shepherds and pit bulls, the majority of those that come in are the sweetest dogs, and the ones that come in for other reasons are surrendered, and those are dealt with in a different manner. And there is a screening process, and there will be an extensive screening process for the fostering program. We're going to double test or triple test with other animals, introduced to different people, some that they're not used to, just to test and see if they are a little weary of men with beards, females, or anything else.
Those with beards.
You will be surprised at how many dogs don't like people with beards. It's weird. I figured they would like us, a little bit better, because we're furry like them, but it doesn't work that way.
That's the first.
Every time I make a comment, close it up. Any other questions for Mr. Smith? I've got two questions. What kind of time frame are we talking about for you to have a proposal on this fostering program? And do you have any ballpark cost estimates at this point?
Really, the ones we discussed last time of, $300 per adoption, which would include the spay and neuter, those have probably changed because we have seen an increase in the medical supply cost on our end, and we all use the same vendors. We're trying to reach out to some clinics right now to see what their new costs are going to be, because I'm confident they're going to go up. But our best bet is to deal with spay and neuter facilities themselves, like in Vass and Fayetteville. That's what we're trying to do. And I think that will best serve the foster to adopt program because it will cost less.
But that'll be passed along to the
to the adopter, correct.
My question is, what's it going to cost the county?
It's not an exact figure.
What will be the cost that we can't pass on to the?
So,
about $165 for a dog is average, and about $140 per cat is average.
And so I think it's going to be hard to determine. So again, the idea is to place these animals to foster, to adopt, but I'm sure inevitably there's gonna be those who decide that after the procedures that they decide to return them to the county. And so, and if the county can't adopt back out, the county will eat that cost. I don't know what that's gonna look like. I'm sure that's a potential, but I think.
I don't either.
But I think the idea is, if this is a successful program, it won't hopefully cost the county too much money, but I think there's some unknowns since this is new.
Yeah.
And I think Larry reaching out to get kind of an idea of, is this something that the community is interested in, will help us.
Is the extra cost because of the holding time?
Currently, yes. If they're in-house, yes. That's the extra cost of the kenneling
So
fees.
it's the additional time that we're holding them is what the additional cost is.
And I know there's some other costs, because I think based on availability, I think we're able to provide some food and some other care.
Yes. So on average, an animal costs $19.11 a day. So the quicker we get them out, the more money we save in food, water, staffing, electricity, and all that stuff. So fostering will definitely help.
The other comment I'd like to make is if we approve this as a pilot program, we can determine how much cost we want to place on this. So we can start the program and say we want to allocate $10,000. If that allows us to do 20 pets and we try it out to see if it works, that gives us a pilot program. If we allocate 20,000, obviously we can test more. So it's dependent on the amount of money that you're willing to put towards this program, which is putting a value on having spayed and neutered animals being the ones that are adopted. So we can establish what that parameter is. We will try and refine that cost before final approval.
So what you're coming before us tonight is asking us to approve development of this program, and once you've got it developed, you'll bring it back to us for final approval.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
It looks like, I believe our first work session in the New Year's, January the 10th. Can you have it done by then?
Yes, sir.
Larry's already working on some, has already worked on some policies. We can continue along that route and present to you and hopefully be ready by then.
Is that agreeable with the board? Is everybody agreeable with moving forward on development of this program?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the adopting pilot program for the
Development of the program. Okay. We have a motion.
I'll second that. Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the development of a pet fostering pilot program, and the Animal Services will report back to us with a proposal on January the 10th. Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Mr. Bell, I think you're up to talk about Animal Services Ordinance.
Yes, so again, as we discussed last week, as part of this adoption program, did not make any additional changes from the last time presented. So unless there was any other comments, I would ask today to approve the amendments to the Animal Services Ordinance as last presented to you.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the proposed changes to the Animal Service Ordinance that we have talked about several times.
Second.
Don't you dare.
Hey, I seconded it.
Okay. We've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Carried unanimously, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Board.
Thanks, sir. All right, at this time, we'll have the county manager's report.
Thank you, Chairman. Tonight, first step we will do is request a motion to approve the budget amendments as requested by the finance director, and then a motion to approve the tax rebates, refunds, and releases requested by the tax administrator.
Make a motion to approve the budget amendments as requested by the finance director.
Second.
Have a motion and second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Carried unanimously, Madam Clerk. Do I hear a motion to approve the tax rebates, refunds, and releases?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Carried unanimously, Madam Clerk.
Thank you.
All right.
This item I have is I just want to make a comment. We are in the process of making a number of repairs at the detention center, and we're on top of it. Our facilities folks have been spending a lot of time there, either doing the work themselves or contracting with others to make those repairs. And I know that Mike Morrow, our new assistant county manager, has already engaged with Kenneth in order to continue to move that process forward. One of the things that was done was Kenneth and his team were able to get in and make the repairs from the fire that occurred in the laundry room. They now have new washers and dryers in order to proceed with doing their own laundry services there. So there are things that are moving forward. Is there still work to do? Yes, there's still work to do. It's a very large facility, and it is a lot of individuals that move through. Always seem to be sinks and showers that need to be fixed. So we'll continue to work forward on that. Reminder, there is no meeting next week. Our next meeting is the work session on November 1st. That's all I have, Chairman.
All right. Any new business to come before the board?
Mr. Chair, I don't have any new business. I just would like to kind of follow up on our Riverside project bids for that.
Coley having to step out, but we are moving forward with the bids, and the RFP, I believe, was issued. And I'm not sure, I can't remember the exact date that their bids are due, but it has been published.
Sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but, you know,
That's all right.
if we could get an update on that, I would
will.
like
I'll
to.
send out an email with the exact date.
Sure, thank you.
We would like to know, everybody.
All right. Anything else come before the board? We have no need for a closed session tonight, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Have a motion second to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition? We are adjourned.
Kimberly took up more time than Dwight did today.